Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is. Time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And for those of you who like these type of videos, please remember to click like down below. Let's see if we can keep the likes higher than the dislikes. But a couple people told me, Jason, AlphaDestiny, Alex, admitted that he was lazy for not squatting and deadlifting. And I went to look for the video and I couldn't find it, guys. So I appreciate you guys telling me that and then not linking me anything. But instead I found a video just a few days ago where he talked about misconceptions in strength training. And he made a statement that's something I've been showing you guys all year long. He made a correct statement. Now, whatever beefs he and I have had in the past, and they've definitely been there, doesn't make his statements here not true. And I'm not saying I agree with everything. I'm going to disagree on the goofy high handle trap bar thing. But that's besides the point. Most of everything else he said was actually really good in the video. And he said that you don't have to practice the big three to get good at the big three. Well, what have you guys seen me doing lately? I haven't done any back squatting this year. I've been doing tons of box squatting, box squat variations, supplemental work. And everyone's like, oh, Jason, you can't back squat, prove it. And I walked in randomly, a couple weeks ago, and did a 522 high bar squat easily without having done any back squatting. I'll flip that in here.
What makes a man? Is it the power in his hands? Is it his quest for glory? Give it all you got to fight to the top so we can know your story.
So when people say things like that of it doesn't carry over, well, clearly it does. So he's actually said, look, this has been proven. Well, hasn't that been proven? Since I've been on YouTube, have you guys, anyone seen me squat more than, 508? And that's been years and years ago. Years and years ago. The most I've squatted in recent years was 485 before I cut down. Right? I weighed 30 pounds more than I do right now. I just walked in and did 522, and it wasn't that difficult. I probably could have gone higher, and with a little bit of practice, I could probably jump up to 550. I don't think it would be that difficult based upon my box squat numbers. Okay? My goal is to get to 600. So when I get closer to a 600 box squat, then we'll start practicing some back squatting a little more. Work a little more and get good at it because I want to get to a 600 back squat. I don't think that's unobtainable. It'd be a pretty good number for me in my early 40s, weighing 220. I think a 600 squat would be fantastic. But that's the point here, guys. 522 without having done any back squatting. Just box squats, box squat variation, supplemental lifts. Same thing, because I've been messing with hook grip all this time. And I do all these variations. You guys are now seeing me switch back to mixed grip so that I can grip the bar better. I can pull roughly 600 on a sumo or a conventional. It's a good estimate at this point. Not a problem. I don't even do these lifts for the most part. And if you guys look at what I do variations for singles these days. I did a bunch of speed work earlier this year. I've cut it out, but I've continued to get stronger. How do I train? I train with max variations using random number generators and spreadsheets. I don't even pick what I'm going to max on. And I do large amounts of supplemental work to build all my weak points and hypertrophy up. I am continuing to hit squat PRs without even doing any volume on any squatting movements. I don't do any volume on squatting movements. I use smaller exercises to build my lower body up, all my weak links, hip thrust, glute bridges, large numbers of good mornings. I do a lot of good mornings. We'll get over to that for the deadlifting. Okay, glute ham raise. You know, different other little things, step ups and stuff like that have been in there. I build my legs up. I've got pretty big legs. And then you go over to the specificity of doing heavy work. And people need to remember that. A 1 rep max is a 1 rep max. And he talked about, well, look, if you can build this lift or that lift. Look, we build those lifts up. We don't even build those lifts up by doing those lifts. We build those lifts up by your hypertrophy work. Max training teaches you to use the muscle mass that you have. to exert maximum force. I mean, I would go so far as to say that just doing heavy variations while maximizing your body composition and hypertrophy will generally build your big three. Big three are not high skill lifts. They don't require large amounts of practice. And that's generally what you find. It's look how I train, look how a lot of lifters train who have broken away from that mindset. Even the West Side guys, they only spend about 10% of their time doing close variations of the squat, bench, and deadlift. 90% of everything else is what they would call special exercises, or most would think of as your hypertrophy type exercises. Pretty much how I train. I do one heavy single on a squat, bench, or deadlift variation, and then I do a bunch of supplemental work behind it. So let's come over to the point. He said you don't have to do a conventional deadlift to conventional deadlift. I agree with that. I agree with that completely. It's not necessary. Not necessary at all. I would go so far as to say that I could probably take somebody, if you want to build a 500 deadlift, you know what? I could probably take somebody and not have them do any deadlifts if I didn't want, and do large amounts of good mornings. Good morning. I live and die by the good morning for my deadlift these days. Okay, good mornings. Number one supplemental lift. He said that. I'm going to agree. Alex, I'm going to agree with you. I think the good morning will build most of the strength base for your conventional deadlift, right? If I wanted to get someone to a 500 deadlift without doing much deadlifting, we would focus on good mornings, pin lay rows, probably some heavy shrugs. And I would require the shrugs and the rows without straps. Why? We can skip most of our grip training now. That'll handle most of their grip training. Those three exercises done with enough volume and a little variation, I could build somebody up to a 500 deadlift who's probably never done any deadlifting. Could probably have them come and do some light deficit pulls or some sumo pulls a little bit, light with lighter weight. We don't need to go that heavy. And then peak them up and have them pull 500. That could absolutely be done. And a lot of people say that's not possible. Yeah, it is possible. You build somebody to do a 500 deadlift, because a 500 deadlift is not that impressive, first of all. Not that impressive. Anybody can get to a 500 deadlift with appropriate training. Almost any healthy young man. Okay. He said that, I said, I'm saying the same thing. We're both in agreement there. We're going to agree on that one. I don't think that's really that big of a deal. Reality. Good mornings, pin lay rows, maybe some shrugs if we have to do some extra trap work. That'll handle all their grip, all the muscles they need. Maybe some glute ham raises to reduce the chances of pulling a hamstring. Not necessary for the lift. It'll help with injury prevention, right? Pretty much all they would need. Maybe and then some deficit work a little bit, moving up to it. And I could walk them in and peak them. I could probably take a burst in and build them up on all those exercises. Do some light deficit work, nothing even over 400 pounds. And then peak them up and possibly within a month after doing all those long enough, have somebody deadlifting 500. Without having actually tried a conventional pull before. Then you'd have to teach them the pull. I would absolutely do it. And that it really is that simple. So when he's saying you don't have to do these exercises, he is right. Now they help, but the problem we run into is that, again, injury risk go up. If you're doing nothing but specificity with your exact classic lifts, you have a higher injury risk. And at a certain point, people have to remember, novices need to learn these lifts because it teaches them the skill work. But once you know how to perform a squat, bench, and deadlift, you don't forget how to do a back squat. Okay, you don't forget how to do a conventional deadlift. You don't forget how to do a bench press. You just have to build the size and strength up to get better at them. You don't have to practice them. You can come back around to them later at any point you want. Getting good at the big three is just about being brutally strong, which requires you to maximize muscle mass and obviously in the right places, but in general too will help. It's just better if you put it in the right places for those lifts. But hypertrophy is hypertrophy, and then learning to maximize your strength, which is done through one rep max work. And it doesn't have to be the lift you want to do it on. Let me go back over to the point. I have not been doing back squatting. And I've walked in and hit the heaviest back squat I have hit on camera the entire time I've been on YouTube without any practice on the back squat. So is his statement true? I just did it. I would say that what I've done this year on camera actually proves the statement that Alex made. It actually kind of proves it. And it's not just me, there's hundreds of other lifters who've done similar stuff. I'm not even close to the only one. Don't use me. There are guys who've done better than me on it. So the statement's true. The only thing I'm going to laugh at and disagree with is going to be the high handle trap bar. And it's not because the high handle trap bar isn't a test of strength. It's that I think he's overshooting the numbers. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you took a kid and didn't have him do any deadlifting other than the high handle trap bar, build all his glutes, erectors, upper back, everything up to where he could high handle 800 with straps, he's not going to be stronger than me on the deadlift. That is going to be a 600 puller, right? That guy's going to deadlift about what I deadlift. And I'm not really an ultra elite puller. I'm a decent puller, right? I'm a good puller. Certainly not like an absolutely elite lifter. It's at an 800 high handle trap bar with straps is not a massive mind-blowing lift. It's just not. It's way easier. That's the only thing I'm going to disagree with him on. I don't think the really high handle pulling of any type, particularly we start changing hands, I don't think it carries over that well. Just my opinion. I think lower block pulls do. I think a 2-inch block pull, I think that will carry over really well. I think deficit work carries over really, really well as far as just learning to pull. And it's the issue is that the pulling mechanics are so different. And some people say, well, but you could use it for hypertrophy. There's better exercises to use for hypertrophy. Okay, I would rather someone do good mornings. So let's come back over to that point. Someone wants to build their deadlift. I think good mornings are going to do more for your deadlift than high handle trap bar pulls because you can do tons more volume. The high handle trap bar requires you to use a much heavier weight, more compression on the spine. That's not particularly good for volume or hypertrophy. And if you're trying to learn to just do a heavy pull, it's not particularly good pulling mechanics compared to a regular conventional or sumo deadlift. So the movement pattern carryover, I don't think it's going to be that good. Just my opinion. It says me. It says me. So that's the one point of contention we're going to disagree on. I'm just not really a fan of that exercise for the purpose of improving deadlift strength. Mainly because it's too much of a partial with too different of mechanics. But if a person were to come to me and say, hey, what about a very short block pull for a sumo or a conventional deadlift, would those carry over? Yeah, absolutely. But I would say in general, no more than a 2 to 3 inch block pull. Probably no more than that, depending upon a person's height. Shorter person, I'd cap it at 2 inches. Just my opinion. But would those actually help? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's a different animal. The high handle trap bar, we're talking about adding 5 or 6 inches, and we're completely changing the center of gravity, right? We're changing the center of gravity around a lot. I don't think it's quite the same. But that's just my opinion. That's going to be the only thing I'm going to disagree with Alex on that was stated in the video. The rest of the video, I'm going to actually say he was 100% on point. He was generally right, and I'm interesting to see how his own training philosophies have evolved over the years. So I'll give him props for this video. Whatever disagreements we've had in the past aside, it was a good video, 90% accurate. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.